Easy, easy. Seems like he's ready for the ride.
No one paid attention to the starving mare. Her ribs showed, her steps were weak, and the rancher was ready to sell her for almost nothing. But one man refused to walk away. A silent Apache tracker stood still, watching, noticing something no one else could see. While others laughed, he stepped forward and stopped the deal. Because this wasn't just a dying horse. Hidden inside her was a secret, a fortune no one imagined. And what he revealed next left the entire ranch speechless. The sun was sinking behind the low hills, casting a soft orange light across the ranch. Dust drifted in the air as the last of the workers finished their tasks for the day. Most of them moved slowly, worn down by heat and routine. But their eyes kept returning to the same place near the fence. A mare stood there alone. Her body looked fragile, her ribs clear beneath her skin. Her coat had lost its shine and hung in rough patches. When she shifted her weight, it seemed to take effort, as if even standing had become a burden. "She won't last long," one worker said quietly. Another man nodded but did not answer. No one wanted to speak too much about it. They had all seen animals decline before. It was part of life on a ranch. Still, something about this mare felt different. Not long ago, she had been strong. Fast across the open land, steady under a rider. Some even said she was the best on the ranch. But over time, she had grown weaker. She stopped eating as much. Her energy faded. Now she stood apart, as if forgotten. From the porch of the large house, the rancher watched. He was a man known for his wealth and pride. His boots were always clean, his voice always firm. He did not like losing value, whether it was land, money, or animals. He stepped down from the porch and walked toward the fence, his expression hard. The workers straightened as he passed, but he did not look at them. His attention stayed on the mare. "She is done," he said at last. "No reason to keep feeding her." No one argued. They knew better. "Find a buyer," he added. "Tomorrow. I do not care what price. Just get something for her." The words settled heavily in the air. One of the younger workers glanced at the mare, then at the ground. It felt wrong, but he stayed silent. As the rancher turned and walked away, the mare lifted her head slightly. For a brief moment, her eyes followed him. Then she lowered it again. Evening came quickly after that. The light faded, and the ranch grew quiet. A cool breeze moved across the land, carrying the scent of dry grass and earth. That was when the stranger arrived. No one saw where he came from. One moment the path was empty, and the next he was there, walking with calm and steady steps. His clothes were simple, worn from travel. His face showed little emotion. He did not greet anyone. He did not ask for work or water. He simply looked around. His eyes moved across the buildings, the fields, the people. Then they stopped. On the mare. He stood still, watching her in silence. While others saw weakness, he seemed to see something else. Something that held his attention longer than expected. A worker noticed him and frowned. "You lost?" he asked. The stranger did not answer right away. His gaze remained fixed on the animal near the fence. The mare shifted slightly, then grew still again. The man took a slow step forward. There was no rush in his movement. No sign of doubt. Only quiet focus. And in that quiet, something unseen began to take shape. Morning came with a dry wind and a sense of finality. The ranch was already awake, and word had spread that a buyer was on his way. A few workers gathered near the fence, keeping their distance but watching closely. The mare stood where she had been left, her head low, her body still. Dust clung to her legs. She looked no better than the day before. A wagon rolled in just after sunrise. The buyer climbed down, glancing around with a quick, practiced eye. He was not a man who wasted time. "Which one?" he asked. The rancher pointed toward the mare. "There." The buyer walked over, circled her once, then shook his head. "She is finished," he said. "I can take her off your hands, but not for much." "That is fine," the rancher replied. "Just make it quick." A rope was brought forward. One of the workers stepped closer to the mare, though he hesitated for a moment before reaching out. "Stop." The voice was calm, but it carried. Everyone turned. The stranger stood a few steps away, the same quiet presence from the night before. His eyes were on the mare, not on the men. "This horse should not be sold," he said. The buyer let out a short laugh. "You see something we do not." The rancher narrowed his eyes. "This is not your concern." The stranger stepped closer, slow and steady. "She is not dying," he said. A few of the workers exchanged looks. The claim sounded strange, almost foolish. The buyer gestured toward the mare. "Look at her. She can barely stand." Still, the stranger did not argue. He reached the fence and stopped, studying the mare in silence. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the mare lifted her head. Just slightly. And the man's expression changed, as if he had noticed something the rest had missed. The rancher let out a sharp breath. "Enough of this," he said. "Say what you came to say." The stranger did not rush. He stepped closer to the mare, stopping just within reach. She did not pull away. Her ears shifted toward him, alert in a quiet way she had not shown before. "She is not failing," he said. "Something is holding her back." The buyer folded his arms. "You keep saying that. What does it mean?" The man placed his hand gently along the mare's side. He moved slowly, feeling with care rather than force. His fingers paused low along her belly. He pressed lightly, then waited. The mare tensed for a brief moment, then settled again. "There," he said. The rancher frowned. "There what?" "A weight," the stranger replied. "Not natural. It has been there a long time." One of the workers stepped closer. "Like a sickness." The man shook his head. "Not sickness." The buyer scoffed. "Then what? A stone inside her?" The stranger looked up. "Yes." The word hung in the air. The rancher stared at him, uncertain whether to be angry or curious. "You expect me to believe that?" "I expect you to look," the man said. Silence followed. The workers shifted uneasily. The mare stood still, her breathing slow but steady. At last, the rancher turned to one of his men. "Call the vet." The buyer opened his mouth to protest, then stopped. Something in the room had changed. Doubt had taken hold, quiet but firm. Time passed slowly. When the veterinarian arrived, he listened without comment, then moved to examine the mare. His hands pressed along her side, careful and precise. He paused where the stranger had pointed. His expression tightened. "There is something," he said. "Hard. Not part of her body." The rancher felt his chest grow tight. "Can it be removed?" The vet looked at him, measured and calm. "It can. But it will not be simple." For a moment, no one spoke. Then the rancher gave a short nod. "Do it." The room was quiet except for the low sounds of movement and breath. Time seemed to stretch as the veterinarian worked with steady hands. Outside, the workers waited, speaking in hushed voices, their eyes fixed on the closed door. No one laughed now. After a long while, the door opened. The veterinarian stepped out, his face tired but focused. In his hands, he carried a cloth bundle. The rancher moved forward at once. "Well?" he asked. Without a word, the vet unfolded the cloth. Inside lay a solid mass, dark with dirt and age. For a moment, it looked like nothing more than a rough stone. Then a thin crack ran across its surface, and a dull shine broke through. "Metal." The vet wiped it clean with a corner of the cloth. The shine grew stronger. "Gold." A heavy piece of it, pressed and shaped by time inside the mare. No one spoke. The buyer took a step back. The workers stared, unsure what to say. The rancher stood still, his eyes fixed on the object in front of him. The mare, once seen as worthless, had carried a fortune all along. The mare rested in a shaded pen, her breathing calm for the first time in months. Without the weight inside her, she began to change. Day by day, her strength returned. She ate more, moved more, and slowly regained the spirit she had once been known for. The workers noticed it first. They spoke of her in quiet voices, no longer with pity, but with a kind of respect. The same animal they had almost given up on now stood as a reminder of how wrong they had been. The rancher visited often. He would stand by the fence and watch her in silence. The gold had been cleaned and locked away, but it no longer held his full attention. His thoughts returned again and again to how close he had come to losing both the fortune and the horse. One evening, he found the stranger near the edge of the land. "You saw it," the rancher said, "before anyone else." The man looked out across the open fields. "I listened," he replied. The rancher frowned slightly. "To what?" The man glanced toward the mare in the distance. "To what was there?" No more was said. By morning, the stranger was gone. No one saw him leave. But what he left behind remained clear. Not everything that appears weak has no value. And not everything of worth is easy to see. The mare was moved carefully to a clean stall after the procedure. At first she was weak, but day by day she began to recover. Her breathing eased. Her steps grew steadier. The dullness in her eyes slowly faded. The rancher did not speak much after that day. He visited the stall often, standing in silence for long moments. The gold had been real, but it was not what stayed in his mind. It was how close he had come to losing something valuable without understanding it. One evening, he found the Apache tracker standing near the fence again. "You never asked for anything," the rancher said. The man looked toward the mare. "I did not need to." The rancher frowned. "How did you know?" The tracker answered calmly. "I listened. Not to people. To what they ignore." A long silence followed. The rancher nodded once, slowly. When he looked back, the tracker was already walking away, disappearing into the open land. And for the first time, the rancher understood that value is not always seen at first glance. The story of the mare spread across the ranch and beyond, but those who lived it knew the truth was never really about gold. It was about what people choose to see and what they choose to ignore. A life that looked broken can still hold something rare. A moment dismissed too quickly can carry the most important truth of all. The rancher never looked at his land the same way again. The workers became more careful, more observant. And the mare, once forgotten, lived the rest of her days with quiet respect. As for the Apache tracker, he was gone as suddenly as he had arrived. No celebration followed him. No reward was asked for. Only a memory remained. If this story moved you, take a moment to reflect on it. Sometimes what looks lost is only waiting to be understood. Like the video if you believe value is not always visible at first sight. Subscribe for more powerful stories like this. And comment below what you think the rancher learned.